Hello, I'm Angela Sheedy and I'm your Unit Coordinator for NUR329 Semester 1 2018. In this quick YouTube we're going to run you through a quick overview of the assessments for NUR329, and then I'm going to go through what you need to know to successfully complete Assessment 1. So to start you off, there's 4 items of assessment in this unit, and in order to pass this unit you must achieve an overall grade of 50% or more. So the first one is a theme discussion post, and this is what I'm going to tell you a little bit more about as this session progresses, so I'll just leave that one for the moment. The second one is a public health promotion project plan, or you can apply to attend the public health study tour in Jakarta, Indonesia. Okay, so if you're not planning on going overseas as part of this unit, then you stick with the main assessment overview for the public health promotion project plan. The third assessment is a pictorial health promotion. Now, assessment 1, 2 and 3 are all interconnected in that you will choose a topical area to explore in assessment 1, and in assessment 1 you'll be doing a lot of background into how this affects the Australian population and so forth. Then in assessment 2, in relation to the topic that you've chosen, you'll come to put together a health promotion project around this for the Australian community. And then in assessment 3, the pictorial is a poster or a brochure or some type of pictorial representation of what you've presented in your health promotion project. Okay, so the examination is your assessment 4. It is a 2-hour centrally organised invigilated examination, and it's closed book. Now that will occur during the official examination weeks. I can't give you an official date at this point. I find out pretty much the same time as you do. If you do have any questions or issues about the exam sitting, you also need to contact the examination team. I prepare the exam and I mark the exam, but the actual logistics of you attending and sitting the exam are all managed by another team. Okay, so let's find out a little bit more about your first assessment, and that's your theme discussion post. And it's in 2 parts. So part 1 is your contribution onto the topic that you've chosen, and part 2 is where we want you to comment on a fellow student's post. It's actually worth 10% of your overall mark for this unit, and we're asking for it to be around 500 words approximately. It's due in week 4 of semester, and we put this a little bit earlier, 1 to give you some early feedback in the unit, and 2, if you really get to week 4 and you're not being able to get this assessment done, it falls within census date and gives you opportunity to maybe think about withdrawing from the unit and coming back and doing it another time. Okay, what you'll notice that I've put on all your assessment items for this unit is a little spiel about why is this assessment relevant. So the idea of this assessment is that we are going to get you to have a look at some different health statistics and data for the Australian population, and we're going to get you to explore a few of the government policies and strategies that might also be related to this. So what we'd like you to understand is that as you progress through your career as a registered nurse, you need to understand how health data in relation to chronic diseases and determinants drives health policy development and indicates where health resources, education and promotion are needed. There are significant Australian health agencies such as the Australian Institute of Health and Welfare which research, collate and present this data for use. And as nurses, you should understand how health statistics and data are represented, how useful they can be in reviewing the impacts of disease and health determinants on the Australian population. So we're really getting you to do a bit of research in this particular assessment and access some of those resources that as you progress in your career, if you need to find out a little bit more about the impact, risk factors and diseases and injuries having on a population, you've got that background knowledge and you know where to go to find the information and how you can actually present it. Okay, so to get started in your assessment items, what you're going to need to do is get a copy of Australia's Health Tracker 2016. Now, I have put a copy of this in the assessment outline for you, or you can just Google it and find it pretty easily, okay? Because the discussion board criteria is going to revolve around you choosing a particular topic from this document. So once you've got your health tracker document, what we want you to do is have a look through it first, have a read. It's not a big document, and I've chosen it for that purpose because it presents quite a lot of information in a really easy to understand manner and method. It's quite interestingly and colourfully presented. So we want you to have a look at what they've identified in their report, either on adults, and I've identified on pages 7 and 8, have a look on those, or on children and young adults on pages 11, 12 and 13. And choose an area or a risk factor identified, okay, on one of those pages. So you might choose that you want to have a look at the health risk factor of high blood pressure for adults, for example, or you might have a look at children and choose the risk factor of sedentary behaviour and lack of physical activity to pursue. Okay, so have a little look through. There's quite a few different areas there, so make sure you choose one that you find interesting, because the idea is what you choose now is what you can follow up with throughout the rest of your assessments. So once you found that and you decided on your topic, we want you to have a look at the prevalence and find some health statistics and data of this health area for the Australian population. And then once you've done that, we want you to compare that between Indigenous and non-Indigenous populations. Okay, so presenting a little bit of health statistics and data and a little bit of comparison and conversation around that. We want you to then outline the burden of disease for this health area for the Australian population, and that includes outlining the daily and the year's life lost. So you'll need to find out what they mean. Okay, and as you work through the topics, all will be revealed. Okay, it's not rocket science, it's public health, but it is a really important area for you to understand when we're referring to burden of disease. What does this mean, and why is this an important aspect of public health? So what you might find is that you'll need to relate the risk factor that you've found in your health tracker to a chronic condition to present the burden of disease for that. For example, if you were choosing obesity, you might link obesity to diabetes or heart disease and outline what the burden of disease for this for one of those conditions is. We then want you finally just to briefly outline a government health policy or strategy that have been developed in association with this health area. So what's the Australian government doing about it? What have they invested some money in? Where's that health policy lying in? And again, as you've worked through the unit, you should have no problem finding this information at all. For the second part of the discussion board criteria, and we've set approximately 200 to 300 word limit on this one, we want you to focus on another student's post different to the area that you've chosen. So if you've looked at sedentary behaviour, you might choose a student's post who's commented on smoking. Okay, and we want you to have a little read through their posts, give them a little bit of feedback and what you've noticed about it, but also do a little bit of a comparison about their outline of their topic area to the one that you've researched. Just remember as well that when you're presenting any health data or health statistics, you should always reference these, even in your response to a fellow student's post. Okay, so to quickly go through preparation, well, review the assessment YouTube, okay? Hopefully that's what you're watching right now. You need to work through topics 1, 2, 3 and 4 on LearnLine, as the information pertaining to all of the criteria that we've outlined for this assignment can be found in those learning materials, and it'll also point you in those right directions. Go to the Australian Institute of Health and Welfare's website, okay, because you'll find quite a lot of information in there, as well as looking at the set texts that we've referred you to, both Fleming and Parker's Introduction to Public Health and the Australian Institute of Health and Welfare's Australia's Health 2016. Don't forget that there's the NUR329 Library Guide, where there's our health liaison librarian has already set up some research and references and that there for you. And have a look at some of the other websites and journal articles that might pertain. So do a little bit of background research on what your area specific topic is, okay, and see what else that you can bring to the discussion. Now, I've made a note here, this is not medical surgical nursing, okay, so the pathophysiology related to the risk factor diseases and so forth that you look at do not need to be included, okay. We are not looking at that side of disease and disease processes and risk factors. We're looking at how it affects the community and the population. So for presentation of this post, we want you to use standard academic writing, which means structured paragraphs and no point form or table, okay? Anyone can list a series of points. We want you to put your statistics and data into sentences, okay? This helps us see that you understand what you're writing about a little bit more. Using the APA referencing style, of course, we want you to include around 3 references, okay? And this should include 1 research article. A reference list does not contribute to your word count. Please don't attach documents when you submit your work onto the discussion board. We want to be able to see all the posts as they are. Okay, and it makes it a little bit easier for marking and for other students to have a look at your post as well. We also are aware that when you submit on the discussion board, it can sometimes alter the appearance of your reference list. So you might lose your hanging indent, for example, and just be reassured that there's no penalties if this does happen to your work. Okay, so this is really important, right? You need to submit your response into the assignment assessment 1 discussion board link, okay, provided in the LearnLine assignment information tab. Please don't submit your work anywhere else because it won't be marked, right? Most importantly, the discussion board will be closed and no further submissions or comments accepted after the due date or time. So if you're not getting your assessment post in on time and the discussion board's closed, then you need to contact me directly, all right? Don't just go put it into another post area and think that I might find it, because it's not going to happen, all right? Post directly onto the discussion board by creating your thread. And once you've put your post up, then you'll be able to see all the other students' posts. And that's where you can choose another student's post and put your response up as well. The Grade Centre will sort out all your responses for me and will always link all your responses together, which makes it nice and easy for us to mark. A quick look at the rubric here, and when we do mark your discussion boards, we will be marking them online, and you will be able to see where your marks are allocated in relation to this marking criteria. So first of all, we're going to look at your ability to interpret and address the topic. So showing us that you are able to find that health information, find that government health policy and strategy and so forth, and that it all links in with the health risk factor and area that you've identified. Secondly, we want to have a look that you've been able to find really good resources. So you've got that evidence of background research and presenting that appropriately. Okay, the next lot of marks you're going to get are in response to another student's thread. Okay, so we're going to be looking at what you've come back with and have you done a really good outline and comparison from their post in comparison to your post. Okay, don't just miss out on marks because you haven't managed to get to respond to another student's thread. You can be submitting for this discussion board as early as you like, okay? But your response to another student's thread is due at the same time, okay? So you have to make sure that you are keeping an eye on the due date for this particular assignment. And the last set of marks that we're allocating are basically attention to your referencing and your written expression, so your spelling and grammar and things like that. Okay, so once you've chosen your topic, you should find that this is a fairly easy assignment just to work your way through quite quickly, because it's just a matter of doing a bit of background research, defining a few of these new terminologies such as burden of disease and daily and so forth, and having a look at government strategies. And as I said, you would have covered all of this in the learning materials as you progress through those first few weeks of the unit. If you're not sure how to get started though on this assessment item, or you've got any questions, please contact me. Okay, we'd much rather help and make this a successful journey for you, okay, in NUR329. All right, thank you.